When your child's chaotic behaviors are running your life, when you're struggling to find practical solutions, and just when you feel you've reached the end of your rope, there comes Harmonious Clan Podcast, equipping you with the proven practical strategies we've developed over the years through our own experiences to bring you strategies that give you results, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony. Welcome to Harmonious Clan Podcast. This is our intro series, From Chaos to Harmony, the birth of our Harmonious Clan. This intro series includes 3 episodes that will help you understand what motivated us to create Harmonious Clan. In episode 1, we'll introduce the theater child and a story about a real event in our clan that sparked us into action to create Harmonious Clan. In episode 2, we'll introduce ourselves, Marco and Luiza, so you understand where we're coming from. And in episode 3, we'll discuss more about our family background, introduce you to our clan, and follow up on our theater child from episode 1, discussing what we learned along the way and where the theater child is today. Make sure you listen to all 3 episodes to learn about the birth of Harmonious Clan, who we are, and the practical strategies we can teach you based on our real-life experiences. Visit our website at www.harmoniousclan.com to get a copy of our podcast download, the simple way to identify whether your child may be a sensitive divergent needs child. You can also learn more about us and get information about joining the clan. Harmonious Clan, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding. Welcome to Harmonious Clan Podcast. I'm Marco.
I'm Luiza.
We are in episode 2 of our intro series, Getting to Know Marco and Luiza. In this episode, we wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about ourselves, our background, the background of our family, where we came from, and where we are on our journey here to bring our life from chaos to harmony, bring those experiences that we've had, and bring those practical strategies that we developed over time to you to help you and your family on that path from chaos to harmony. Just to start out, a little bit of background about our family. We have 5 children. They were all born within 5 years of each other, so fairly close in age. Some of those children have issues from processing issues to autism spectrum and ADHD and things that we've encountered along the way. And when we started out first, we didn't really know much about any of these things, as probably you don't either. You know, we've had to go through and struggle through these situations as they were growing up and figure out what was going on. We did a lot of research, a lot of hands-on experience with our children, what works, what doesn't work.
A lot of talking to various professionals and doctors, a lot of reading.
Yeah, a lot of reading and a lot of professionals and getting their advice and just kind of synthesizing all this information we were dealing with and figure out what actually works on a practical daily basis with our children. And these are the things that we want to bring to life for you to help you with your family and your children. These techniques and strategies that will help make your life more harmonious with your child. As far as the background, both of us are professionals. We're engineers. We're both very analytical, right, into problem solving and research and synthesizing. So this particular experience with our family kind of posed an interesting engineering problem to us.
It does, and I'll tell you, it actually... Sometimes I can say that it probably really annoys a professional or a doctor when we're trying to talk to them and we're so scientific about trying to find the root cause and what's going on and being so analytical about things. And
yeah, and I think you know, with that background and also the fact that with our family, I mean, we didn't live in an area where our families were close by to help us out. We were on our own. We really have no break from our kids, and we had to deal with them day in, day out, and we live with this every day, and we had to find a solution. What's going to make things more harmonious? We were on that chaotic state, right? I mean, trying to deal with these kids when they were very young and different issues, and just pulling our hair out, trying to figure out what to do, and talking to these professionals, reading the books, doing our research, and then trying to pull all this together with our engineering thought process. How do we synthesize all this stuff into something that's going to work and make our life better? Because it was a struggle.
It was really a struggle.
And you know, we even started homeschooling the oldest child at first, just because you know, some of the issues he had with going on in his life and whether he was going to be able to learn in a classroom setting, and started doing that. So Luiza's been at home ever since our first child was born, dealing with this in the trenches every day. So we have a lot of experience with it, and we had
a difficult time at first. There was no support, and from our family and also from professionals, we got a lot of input and a lot of help. But it's just taking that information that you're getting from all these places and putting it into something that's going to work. And that's what we've been through. And that's where I believe our experience here can help you and your family. Right?
And it's also the fact that, no matter what you read, no matter what you hear, no matter who you talk to, what doctors you see, at the end of the day, you come home and these are your children. You're the parent, you're the caregiver, you're the ones who need to manage their everyday, day-to-day life, and you're the one who needs to be there. And that's when it gets to be really challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and through all this chaos that we were going through, all these different things and all this information that's out there, it's very, very hard for parents. And we found that as we went through this, how do you use this information and how do you make it practical? And because, professionals like to label kids, right, with issues, whether they're on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, ADHD, all these different types and different processing issues that they have. And we tried to look at all this and say, how can we put all this information together and apply it to our children, our family, to get into a more harmonious clan and a more just a life that was a little more smooth and didn't have all this chaos. And we defined, and we talked about this in one of our earlier episodes, we defined our children, just to give them a label here, it's a child with sensitive divergent needs. We talk about how they may not necessarily have, regardless of what labels they have, what diagnoses they have, there are children that have this, whatever it may be, whether it's sensory or it's autism spectrum or it's any of these types of things. They have similar behaviors, right? And similar symptoms that you need to address. And
they're basically all challenged with behavior issues due to whatever conditions whatever conditions, either diagnosed or not, or just due to whatever dispositions they have. Their dispositions tend to play out behaviorally. And typically it's easy for the public to get very judgmental about it. When you see a child like that, it's easy for you to see, oh boy, that's a bad boy, or that's a bad kid, not a good kid, or you see him as not a well-behaved child. But what a lot of people are not seeing is the needs behind it and what's driving all of those behaviors. Behind every behavior, there is a reason. And what we're advocating here is that we want to give these children and the parents of these children, any caregiver of these children, more support and get them more equipped so that you can better meet your child's needs. You can understand what's happening, and you can feel in better position to help them. So the outcome, not only does your child improve the behavior, but your child is actually able to reach their max potential.
Mm-hmm. And from our backgrounds, as I mentioned, we for me in particular, I'm an engineer by training and been working in the engineering field for many years. The more we got into this information and reading about these children and the symptoms and things that cause their behaviors and their struggles, I started seeing a lot of me in these descriptions of children, and I started thinking, maybe I had some of these needs growing up as well that were not addressed.
You're listening to the confession of the child with sensitive divergent needs, and the voice of that child in an adult body.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, if I can provide a unique perspective, having gone through this growing up and having the social ineptness and a lot of the struggles, especially in social situations and how to deal with those things. And, people consider, he's very shy or whatever. But, my parents at the time, I believe, didn't know much about what's going on. And we didn't either when we started out with our children. But we educated ourselves on that. And we want to help you too to be able to understand that, so they don't have to go through the kind of struggles that I did growing up as a child, because those particular issues I had were not being addressed by my parents. Not that it was a fault of them, and not that I blame them. They were immigrant families, so their desire was to get established and get ourselves live day to day. They weren't so much into the details of what was going on. That could be the development aspects of me as a child. And we had 4 children in my family growing up as well, so there's a lot going on. So I think my perspective on things comes from that background, as that being that sensitive high need child. I've lived through that, and so as we go through issues and things, I can provide some perspective on that, I believe, right? Because as we were going through this, Luiza and I keep saying, seeing these things, and I kept saying, I know exactly what they're talking about. I remember that when I was in kindergarten. I remember this being this way and feeling that way and having these same kind of issues, and it just brought it all back to life. And I start thinking, wow, maybe I had a lot of these things growing up as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing that we're able to get that perspective, because as parents, you just wonder, sometimes you look at your child and it's not rational what they're doing, and you can't feel what they're feeling, and you just don't know what's going on. You wonder just what is wrong, what is going on with you. And in this case, I think it's fortunate, and there's probably a reason that you were that child, bringing you to a larger purpose and being able to really raise our kids with the perspective of, okay, what this child feels because you were that child. Right. And this is kind of your second chance to have things be
right.
Right.
I think I grew up and we always use this phrase, from chaos to harmony, and that's what we're here for as the Harmonious Clan, is to help you move your family from a chaotic state to a harmonious one. And I think, growing up, I was in that chaos state. I mean, not having any help or assistance. I had to go through that chaotic state and figure it out myself as a child growing up into adulthood, and figure out a way to make things a little more harmonious for myself. So I know what it's like. I can feel what your children are struggling, and I'm trying to bring that to life as we go through our podcasts, and just as a resource to the Harmonious Clan. Basically, because we want you as listeners to be able to not be in that situation and not have a child grow up in that situation where they're not getting the support and the resources to help them be the most they can be and not be in that chaotic state. So the Harmonious Clan is here as a resource to help you through those things, and to make sure your child is getting that support. Right.
So help the listeners understand. As a child, since you did not get any of that support, your parents did not even know what was going on with you, and neither did you. So needless to say, you didn't get any support. How did you manage all through your whole childhood, and now that you're an adult, when you look back, how do you think things would have been different? How did you manage? And what's your word for our parents here?
Yeah, I think, providing support for your children will make a big difference. Growing up, and especially more from the social aspect of not really understanding how to relate to other people and other children, and it was a struggle. I mean, I didn't go to preschool or anything like that, and I still remember to this day that first day of kindergarten, being away from my mom and being home, and just the feeling of that loneliness and not knowing even how to talk to the other children that were there. I mean, I grew up with siblings, so that was a little more comfortable, but when you got with other children, it was like, wow, I feel so alone. And we just don't want other children to feel that same way. And we want to help you equip your children with the skills and the tools, so that when they're in those situations, even though innately they may have these social issues, there are tools that they can learn and skills that they can learn to help them overcome those. And I had to do that on my own. I had to struggle through it. And as I got older, start branching out and being able to talk to other people, and it's very difficult. And even to this day, sometimes as an adult, when you go into an event or go to a party or something, and there's a lot of people you don't know, that flashback comes back from being a child of I'm going to be the kid in the corner not talking to anybody because I don't know how. But in reality, if you learn to overcome those things, and being able to get support at an earlier age would be an enormous contribution to that child, and allow them to break out of that shell to move forward in their life and their social development, and also in any other behavioral issues they may have.
So apparently you managed. You've got a master's degree, you've got a great career, you've doing great things, you got married, you have family, but would you say that the path would have been a lot less painless, and that's just the experience that you're trying to make sure other children and parents have?
Right. Make the path a little more harmonious and a little easier, less of a struggle for the child. I mean, it's hard work, and you have to overcome these things, but when you have those resources and your parents to help you, it makes a big difference.
I'm Luiza, and I want to talk a little bit about my background. I was an engineer, was trained as an engineer, was educated.
I don't think you can say was. engineer's inbred thing, right? It's an innate thing, I think.
Right. And so I was on a great career path, very happy with my life, and
then she met me.
well, yes, but at a point I decided to quit my career. I decided to quit my career and start staying home with our, at the time, very first child. And to me, that was a big adjustment. And it was a thinking of, oh boy, I was earning all that money and now I'm not. And I was doing all that stuff and now I'm pretty much wiping bottom with my degree. And what did I get my degree for? What is all this? And, the stay-at-home mom mentality, you're nothing but a stay-at-home mom. But I've come to realize that is so not true, because my engineering ways of thinking and problem solving still continues. As you can tell, we have solved a lot of issues and problems in our children's development. And we have solved a lot of problems to bring our family from chaos to harmony. In the end, I think it's a very rewarding position to be in, and I'm very thankful for the career training I have had. Not to mention that I had to use that to teach our 7-year-old son, because he got very advanced and he started studying calculus, and that's when I felt like, oh yay, it's the first time I'm going to use my degree now.
Well, wouldn't you say also, I mean, you've had I think it becomes apparent you kind of have this innate ability with children, and you've worked with children.
Oh yeah, I've
from a
tutored
pretty young age,
all
right?
my life, yes.
So, I think there is that innate ability to work with the children, but not only that, would you say that, we've been through a lot of research and a lot of talking to a lot of professionals to try and figure out what's going on and what's going to work, but I would say you have this ability to take all that information and make it useful, right?
Right. I have trouble cooking, following a recipe, but I have no trouble putting up something great of my own creation. And the same goes to in homeschooling. I have trouble following curriculum, but I ended up creating my own, and they're all very effective, and they're all based on each child's desires, interests, capabilities, and where they are at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something that's very important with both the homeschooling and also the behavioral issues, because we've had to deal with a lot of those behavioral issues, and you've been able to kind of get through all the noise that's out there of information, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of overwhelming information on what to do. And
just cut down to really the practical strategies, right, that are going to work.
Exactly. You're going to look at it in an 80-20 rule. In the end, you got to look at the 20% of the problem that's going to give you 80% of the results. And that's everything we do here. We look at, okay, if a child is having a problem with something, ultimately, what is the pivotal skill that is missing, or what is missing there? And if there's that tiny little thing that we can address, that they can flourish in 80% of their life, or in 80% of our family life, that's the sort of thing that I, quote unquote, engineer.
Yeah, and I think because having a larger family too, we don't have a lot of time. And as you mentioned, the 80-20 rule, we really have had to cut through all this chatter that's out there and find the really effective strategies that work. And where can I spend my time most effectively, right? So as a parent, how can you take the 5 minutes that are going to make a difference and buy you back several hours in time of inappropriate behavior, right?
Right. Well, those are all kind of the fundamental basis of our strategies. In our book, each chapter is a specific strategy on what you can do, and all of those are highly effective. They're all just tiny little things you can do that would change 80% of your life or your child's life. I would say same to as our message to you, as a family. In the next episode, you're going to hear more about a family, our cultural background, and where we come from. But we do things very differently from the average American families, I would say, or we do things very differently from the mainstream families. And our message to you is also very different. We don't sugarcoat what we want to say to you. We just really want you to get the result. We really want you to hear the message that's really important. So we cut through all the crap and don't sugarcoat it. We say it like it is, so you can actually get the meat and have something that you can actually run with.
Yeah, it's I think it's the practical applications, right? Because there are a lot of things you read and there's a lot of information out there, but being that we're very, very intimate with these problems and issues, having to live through it with 5 of these children that are very close in age and just a lot of things going on at the same time. It's very dynamic, and you see these issues pop up constantly. And it's, okay, how do I apply something and use something that's going to be effective? We've gone through, we've done that, we've researched it, we've tried what works, have found a lot of things that don't work,
Right.
and found a lot of things that do. And what we want to do is because of that experience we have, that we've been through this, we've lived with these problems, and we are living with them as the children are growing older, and we're very intimate with what's going on, and we want to share those strategies that do work, so
Yeah.
that you don't have to go through that work as
Right.
a listener and spend all that time reading all these books and trying
It
to
did take
figure out
years.
what works. And it took many years of
Suffering.
living through this with our children on a
And-
day-to-day basis and
suffering
struggling.
everything that doesn't work.
Yeah, and it
Right.
took a while. Once we figured what works, what doesn't, and start applying those things, we're seeing vast improvement in behavior of our children, and just seeing ourselves go from this state of total chaos to the harmony state. And that's the ultimate goal, and that's what we want to teach you.
Right, and we're very happy with where our kids are. Everywhere we go, we get a lot of attention, a lot of compliments, all because of how they're behaving. We're proud of that, but we always frequently get the question, I mean, especially when I go out with all 5 kids alone, and they're all so young, so close in age, and it's like a big bunch. It's like Mama Duck, with the big bunch behind you, and people are always saying, oh, how do you do this? Oh, you got 5. Oh, are they all yours? And they're always saying, wow, look, they're so well behaved. Oh, and oh, how do you do this? So I get asked that all the time everywhere we go. It's like, how do you do this?
And you're probably thinking, if they only knew what we really go through to get them to this state, and what's really going on with these kids, and how hard it is, right?
Yeah.
To get them to that place.
Right, and they don't know about all those tearful moments and all those insane pulling your hair out. I mean, there are all kinds of moments. But at the end of the day, if that's what people see, I'm happy. And that's where we decided, we're going to share this. We're going to answer the question of how do you do it? And we're also going to let everybody know that, hey, no, it's not just regular average kids. These kids have multiple complex diagnoses with issues that normally medication is where you go to. Not to say that we haven't done medication, but we've actually grew out of that also in the way that we manage things. We're able to take a more holistic approach. We're able to live without medication for the moment. And we feel that all of the strategies that we're employing are very just effective in helping children flourish and get past their issues.
So would you say, because we've kind of developed these things based on our children with these sensitive high needs, but they'd be applicable to families with children that don't have any special or sensitive needs, right? So,
yes, absolutely. So what you're saying is whatever it is that we developed works on children with complex diagnoses and a lot of either developmental disabilities or whatever problem there may be. And yes, when it comes to children without those diagnoses or without those conditions, it's almost like it's extra high potency kind of a solution. But it's great. It works very well for our family, and we hope that it works well for you also. I do have a message to empower you as a parent, sharing my own journey as a parent everywhere. When we used to take the kids, and if somebody, due to the conditions and the environmental stimuli, whatever reason, they're just not behaving in a way that people would expect them to behave. I mean, if they're melting down, they're crying, they're doing things. And I mean, I used to be one of those parents that's just always crying in the grocery store, crying everywhere I go because people are looking, because he's on the floor, he's melting down, and people are looking at me thinking, what's wrong with your child? What's wrong with you? But I want to empower you that if you're listening to this, that means you're really seeking out for help, and you're really doing a wonderful job. You're trying to get yourself better and more equipped. You are a great parent, and you need to overlook the judgments that the public would come with. You need to live at a point where you can say, no, that he's not a bad child and I'm not a bad parent, but this is the way things are. This is our journey, and we're trying to get to a better place.
Yeah,
And sometimes,
wouldn't you say as a parent you have to get to that point where you just say, yes, this is my child, this is the way he is, and I'm working to improve his behavior.
yeah,
And not worry about what other people are saying or what they're thinking. And
No,
what matters is how can you most effectively help your child.
yeah, they have not walked a mile in their shoes. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know what you're up against. They don't know they don't know that you're doing a fabulous job, even though it doesn't look like it.
Right. You have to worry more about what you're doing and the improvements you're making, and not worry what other people are thinking.
Right. You need to get past the judgment, because that's one of the biggest things that I experienced. Not only did we not have sufficient support professionally and also just on everyday life basis or friends, and you can hardly explain your child to your friends and not get judgments about, you just don't have it together. Yeah, your child is just not very good. You can hardly ever pass those judgments, and at the same time you're suffering, you're struggling, this isn't what we want. But hey, that's what we're here for. We're here to equip you so that you can get all the tools and information. You can stock up on all your tools. You can really be able to support your child and feel confident about it.
Yeah,
and know that you're not alone.
And we also, and throughout our other series, there is one where we talk about, yes, this is my child,
right,
kind of aspect, and get into a little more detail on that too.
Right.
So just pretty much to wrap up, I think we've covered about everything here for our episode 2, to trying to get you just to understand a little bit more about where I, Marco, come from, and Luiza, and our background, and how we've had this hands-on experience dealing with these children, and we're very intimate with the types of problems that these sensitive, high-needs children encounter as they're growing up. And we've worked through a lot of these and synthesized a lot of the information that's out there, and did a lot of research, and applied these things to our own children, and found the strategies, the practical things that do work. What are those 20% of things you can do to get an 80% improvement in your child's behavior? And we're hoping you'll continue with us on this journey, because we really want to help you on your path from chaos to harmony.
Thank you for listening to Harmonious Clan podcast intro series, From Chaos to Harmony, the birth of Harmonious Clan. We illustrated a story from our life that sparked the birth of Harmonious Clan. We talked about who we are and where we came from, and how we can teach you the practical strategies from our real life experiences, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony. Please visit our website at www.harmoniousclan.com to get a copy of our podcast download, the simple way to identify whether your child may be a sensitive divergent needs child. You can also get the podcast notes, learn more about us, and get information about joining the clan. You've been listening to Harmonious Clan podcast with Marco and Luiza. Learn more about Harmonious Clan at www.harmoniousclan.com for information on resources including books, educational podcasts, a supportive community, courses, and one-on-one consulting. Harmonious Clan, enabling you to nurture your child from outcast to outstanding, and your clan from chaos to harmony.